Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now over the years, people have made comment about the way that I articulate myself, the way that I use the spoken word as a way of communicating with others, about creating a first impression. And it's true, I've worked hard to be able to communicate well using the words that I've been given. So I thought I would give you some tips today on how I've been on that journey of improving my speech, articulation, and how you may be able to implement some of those tips into your way of communicating with others. Now, I'm sure many of my British viewers will know where I'm from even just by opening my mouth, because they will recognise my regional accent. I'm Welsh. I'm from the country of Wales, even though I live in England and English is the only language I ever speak. But it's important to be aware of the way that we speak and the way that that lands with other people, because that's how they will determine something about us. They will draw an impression from us. Now, I well remember when I joined the military as a young lad, my first time out into the wider world, and my new colleagues started calling me Taff straight away. Now, Taff is kind of a colloquial term used to refer to people who come from Wales, in a bit like the same way where people who are from Scotland can be called Jock, or Ireland might be called Paddy. It's taken on a bit of a negative connotation in recent years, but back in my day, 35 years ago, it was intended positively. And I was aware, of course, that people called me Taff because they knew where I was from. And the way that you speak gives a lot away about you. It might say something about your education, your nationality, your social status, particularly if you've got a regional accent. Because let's be honest, I'm from the UK and we don't have many prime ministers who have regional accents. They've all got these sort of public school created accents, which have come through years of being educated in that fashion. So I've always been conscious that I have an accent and I'm careful to shape it and, cut bits off and use none of the slang which originates from my country of origin. And I'm always very conscious about the way that my words will land with the people I'm talking to. Now, I did spend many years living abroad. I lived in Europe, in Belgium and in Germany. And of course, I'm conscious I'm often speaking in those situations to people for whom English isn't their first language. So you have to slow down. You have to use no slang. You have to use proper spoken English. And that's one thing that we can incorporate in the way that we articulate ourselves. Always remember, it's about the words that you speak landing with the other person rather than just you babbling out these words. Think about the audience. Now, my journey into being a better speaker started really about 12 years ago. I set up a non-government organisation, a small non-profit charity, and part of the services that charity provided was a public presentation team. We used to go out, myself and the other volunteers, and give enrichment lectures and talks and educational presentations to a certain group of the community. And as a result, I did all I could to learn how to improve the way that I speak. I became, in effect, a semi-professional public speaker in the space of a very short period of time. And the way that I made use of my language to positively push across my message became very important to me. So these are the tips that I learned. Okay, now my number one tip is, what do you actually sound like? It's very difficult for us, the person speaking the words, to have a determination of how we sound, because we've always spoken like this, and we probably speak to people in our lives who sound the same. So what I would suggest you do is make an audio recording of the way that you speak. Just, set your mobile phone up, put an audio, put the sort of voice record thing on, and, when you're speaking on the phone or talking to somebody over dinner, and listen to it back afterwards. Because you'll be amazed how much slang that you use, how you round off words, how you perhaps say and quite commonly in the way that you speak. Because when you have a starting point, you might think to yourself, oh God, I don't like the way that I sound. I sound rather shrill. I stutter a little bit, I make large gaps between my words, which sounds irregular. When you understand maybe the flaws in the way that you speak, then you can start to improve the way that you speak, certainly for professional situations, if not in general life. So make a recording, listen to what you sound like, find out what you like and you don't like about the way you speak, and then you can pinpoint in on those areas and start to improve them. Okay, now my number 2 tip is find a role model for the way that you want to speak. So what I mean by that is there may be somebody out there who you particularly admire. You like their speaking voice. You like the tempo of their voice, the timbre of their voice. You just like the way that their spoken word lands with you. Now, it might be a movie star. It might be somebody you know in real life who speaks very well. Listen to the way that they speak. Maybe if they're well known and famous, have a look on YouTube. Watch the way that they engage with other people and take those tips from them. You like the way that they use certain types of word. Maybe the way that they intone the tone of their voice when they're speaking to people. You can employ that in your daily speaking style. Now, a very good example of this, I remember many years ago, I was on a sailing expedition on the Baltic Sea, and we called into a small port in Denmark. And I went into a bar with a friend of mine, and we were having a chat. And I remember this fellow heard us speaking English, came up and talked to us. His name was Thomas, and he had a very pronounced American accent. Now, I couldn't put a finger on it, what part of America, but certainly he had a very American accent. So during the conversation, I said to this chap, so how do you end up in this small community on an island in Denmark? And he said to me, well, I'm from here. This is my hometown. And I said, how could that be? You know, you're an American. And he said, oh, no. He said, I learned my English language from watching television. So by watching mostly American television programs, he had assumed an American accent to his spoken English. It just goes to show, if you do wish to emulate somebody who is a good icon to you, or somebody who you see as a role model for the spoken word, that's how easy it can be. Watch them over and over again, learn how they do it, and take those lessons on board. Now, my 3rd tip for improving your articulation is to read and grow your vocabulary. Because often when people say, oh, you're very good at speaking to people, what they mean actually is that you've got a good library of words that you're using to articulate the way that you're communicating. So, if you want to describe something to somebody, it really helps if you've got a lot of words at your disposal in the description. And English, if you're using English as your language, is a fantastic medium to give you many, many words, but only if you know them. So for me, one of the things that I've grown my vocabulary over the years is to read as much as possible. And another little tip, and I've got one in my back pocket, I don't actually carry it around all the time, I knew I would be speaking to you today, it is a thesaurus. Now, a thesaurus, Dictionary of Synonyms, is a fantastic little resource, because particularly if you're writing things or you're creating content, and let's say you're using the same word repeatedly in a paragraph, and you want, it sounds a bit samey, I want something different, I want to inject a different word which has roughly the same meaning. You go to your thesaurus and you look it up, and it will give you a list of other words that you can use, and you grow your vocabulary in so doing. If you want to see the proof in the pudding of that, look up the word big. A simple word in the English language. Look it up in the thesaurus. You will find there are about 30 words which can be substituted for the word big in whatever situation you find yourself in. But when it comes to communicating with people, having as rich a vocabulary as possible will put you in the best place to be able to make your message transmit to the people that you're talking to. Now, my tip number 4 is preparation. All right? It's boring, but it's classically true. If you've got a big event coming up and you're going to talk to a group of people, or maybe you're thinking about making a YouTube video and you just want to practice the things that you're going to say, preparation is the key. Now, preparation for me means not just, writing things down or thinking them through. I really like to go out and talk to myself, all right? So quite often I have a walk in the morning every day before I start work. And when I'm on that walk in the countryside, I never see another soul, but I use it as an opportunity to go over the words that I intend to use in a situation later in the day. It might be I intend to speak to you in a video like this, and I will go over what I think I'm going to say. Right? I don't write scripts or anything like that. These are all a bit off cuff, as you can probably tell. But I will run over the things that I'm likely to say in my video or in a presentation that I intend to give in work. Because when you verbalise what you think you're going to say and you start putting those words together in the spoken word rather than just in your mind or on a sheet of paper, you might find things don't really gel together that easily. You can't get your tongue around the words that well. You can substitute something else instead. But practicing and preparing is definitely the way forward. Now for you, you might spend a lot of time in the car, which is a perfect place to practice and prepare. Say those words, articulate them, get them out, and you will become better at speaking. Now my next tip is to use your instrument as often as you can, because practice makes perfect. And in this instance, the instrument is your voice, all right? The more that you use your spoken word, your voice, the better you'll become. So get yourself in situations where you're likely to speak in public or to other people, and ask for feedback after you've delivered that presentation or you've spoken to people. And this is ongoing. All right. Now, next week, I've signed up to go to a day with the Professional Speaking Association in the area in which I live. That's a body of people who, to a degree, earn their living through speaking in public. And they have workshops where they allow people to go along and improve and learn about using the spoken word as a method of communication. I sign up all of the time, and these days I would say I'm a semi-professional public speaker because an element of my income is derived from speaking in public. So it doesn't matter what stage of development you are at, chase down opportunities to improve and use that instrument until it is as good as it can be. Now, my final tips for you are going to be some really quick wins, which you can employ immediately into the way that you speak to make your articulation better. The first thing is slow down. All right, without doubt, one of the things I see most commonly in people who are poor at communicating, or should I say, have yet to achieve their full potential, because I believe everybody can be a good communicator, is they speak too quickly. And if you speak too quickly, it just sounds all of a mash of words. People get confused, they trip over themselves. Slow down, take a breath and pause and speak in a normal manner. Now, the other thing where I often see people making errors is saying ums and ahs all of the time. And you know, it can be really distracting when you're listening to a speaker who's in the habit of saying ums and ahs. Now, we use ums and ahs in our spoken words because we've come to a gap in the conversation and our mind is desperately trying to find something to say in that gap. And we go or because it's filling in that uncomfortable silence in the conversation. The thing to do is just take a pause. Slowing down and taking a pause will definitely help in reducing those ums and ahs. And like I said earlier, when you record yourself speaking, if you notice yourself saying ums and ahs, take action. Be conscious of it. Slow down. It adds gravitas to the way that you speak if you speak slowly and deliberately. Now, my next quick win for you is don't swear, all right? I hate to see people swearing when they're speaking in public or communicating to others. You can look across the 300 and something videos that I've produced on YouTube and you will not find me using any cursing or bad language. Because for me, if you're swearing in a communication situation like this, it's just letting yourself down and it's showing that you don't have the ability to articulate yourself very well if you've had to resort to swearing to make a point. So do your mother proud and no swearing. And finally, when you're speaking, own it. Don't mumble or grumble or look down or don't make eye contact with people. Chest out, back straight, and speak with conviction, because that is the way it will land with the people that you're speaking to. If your back's arched and you're looking down and you're not making eye contact, it's saying to the people you're talking to, you've got very little commitment in what you're saying to me. If you can't even look me in the eye, why should I listen? So own it. Stand up straight, look at the people you're talking to, and speak with the conviction that you have in the message you're providing. So folks, There we are. You now know my secrets to improved articulation and just improved public speaking in general. It's a subject I'm very passionate about because I think we can all be better public speakers with a little bit of practice and a little bit of time invested in that skill. So if you've enjoyed the video, I would encourage you to give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more like this, of course, click the red button and come on the journey as a subscriber. If you'd like to practically support the channel, you can buy me a coffee, and you will find the link to the Buy Me a Coffee page in the show notes below. So, until the next time, speak as you intend to be heard by the people that you encounter. Take care, and I will see you again very soon.